Donald Trump is spending Thanksgiving in Florida as he continues to round out his White House team. Today, he announced he has tapped South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley as U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, and she has accepted. She's the first woman he's chosen for a top-level cabinet post. The president-elect has also offered retired neurosurgeon and former primary rival Ben Carson a position as Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Carson says he will consider it. Meantime, when it comes to Secretary of State, it looks like there may be an internal tug of war over whether the job should go to Mitt Romney or Rudy Giuliani. Mr. Trump reportedly leaning toward Romney, but former House Speaker Newt Gingrich says he's got a lot of concerns about the man who repeatedly spoke out against the president-elect during the campaign.
I would be concerned, one, I think the vast majority of Trump's supporters will initially be very unhappy and will be reminded of all the things that Romney said over the year. And two, because Romney does represent a very different viewpoint. I mean, authentically, I'm not sure whose Secretary of State he would be. Romney wanted to be in President-elect Trump's job, you know, and to what degree would Romney, once he became Secretary of State, represent himself wandering around the world?
All right, very interesting. So, David Webb, who does this speak more about? Mitt Romney and his ability to be our chief diplomat, or Donald Trump and his ability to overcome past rifts?
So this is the debate that will probably occupy tables throughout Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Look, Romney has certain skills that would be applicable to Secretary of State. But I remind everyone that the Secretary of State represents the president's vision. And this is what we need. We need a Secretary of State that will carry out the job he's given. This is the apprentice for politics. He's bringing everybody in. You've got Giuliani. He's a loyalist. You know, Giuliani's someone who has stood by him from the beginning. But the different skill sets, who knows how it'll play out. I think people should worry less about being upset and more about assembling the right team to govern the country, because it's bigger than the president.
Well, how different are these two people? What does a Giuliani State Department look like versus a Romney State Department? I mean, and what is President-elect Trump choosing?
That's so interesting, because Rudy Giuliani is obviously very tough, very direct, very hard and harsh in a way that, you know, to me is not terribly diplomatic, but does get a lot of things done. When you look at Mitt Romney, to me, he represents sort of the opposite. You know, I mean, other than the way he treated Donald Trump during the campaign, he is usually pretty diplomatic. He's a turnaround guy. I like that, because the State Department and our foreign relations around the world needs a restart, needs a complete turnaround. I like what Donald Trump is doing, bringing in these opposing point of views. This is a lot of what people expected after the Republican National Convention. We didn't see it then. We do see it now. It makes him seem magnanimous. It's also smart because he gets the talents from the people who opposed him.
And also, you know, you don't only have Mitt Romney in consideration. Nikki Haley was also an outspoken opponent of Donald Trump early on. She backed Rubio and then Cruz, and it looks like there's a place for her in this administration. What do you think of Nikki Haley?
I personally love it, and I think that he needs to have diversity of thought, because that's the whole point. Get a bunch of smart, intelligent people that can do the job and collaboratively make the country better in all different aspects of the government. And I think that's exactly what he should be doing. And also, I think what Donald Trump is realizing right now as the president-elect is how important coalition building is as well. When you look at even in the Senate, Republicans are probably going to end up with 52 in the Senate. That's very thin margins, right? So he's going to need the entirety of the party on board with his vision for the country. And so I think it is smart to bring people in that represent different factions of the Republican Party so that he can move some of those things forward. And also, if you just look at the people he's picked so far, he has picked incredibly, wonderful choices so far with people with a lot of experience in that background. You look at someone like Jeff Sessions, former Attorney General of Alabama, General Flynn, he, along with General McChrystal, turned JSOC into the, preeminent terrorist hunting organization and a lethal terrorist hunting organization in the country. You look at someone like Nikki Haley, a governor. She's very smart. She's very well liked.
Youngest governor in the country.
Yeah, so she's going to be able to get the job done. Same thing as Mike Pompeo as well. He graduated top in his class at
West Point.
West Point. Sorry, West Point. And he was a member of the House Intelligence Committee. So all of his picks have been very smart with a lot of experience in their field. I think he's making great decisions, and people should rest easy with that.
Well, speaking of experience, someone who does not have a lot of experience in the offered position is Dr. Ben Carson. And I have tremendous respect for Dr. Ben Carson. He's sat on this couch with us, and he's fantastic. However, this is a statement from his own business manager Armstrong Williams. Dr. Carson feels he has no government experience. He's never run a federal agency. The last thing he would want to do is take a position that could cripple the presidency.
But that's it. He was talking about HHS when that statement was made. And a lot of people thought that he would be placed or nominated for one of the health positions, like HHS.
And I think that would make a little bit
HUD
more.
is vastly different. Why does that make more sense for Dr. Carson?
I think it makes less sense. That's kind of my point. I think it makes even less sense that Dr. Carson would be running the housing and urban development. He's talking about home ownership and just things that seem very much out of his scope to me.
No, I disagree. I disagree because I think that what he understands is a fundamentally different approach to inner cities. And he understands the idea that, you have to raise people up. He was so outspoken about how handouts, subjugate the very group of people that they're trying to help.
Is that what HUD has become?
I don't think that's what
I actually think it is.
No,
I feel like
think that's what it shouldn't be. And I want to go back to this. I think there's something to be said for staying in your lane. Yeah. And I think Dr. Carson will be well suited for many things. I don't think HUD is one of those things.
And here's why.
That's a very establishment position. Just do what you've always done.
Well, or do things that you have a skill set that is uniquely qualifying.
But why do we want to continually put bureaucrats in to run agencies?
Well, I don't think
but let me take Lisa's list and go with it, as we all know.
With the exception of my Rick Perry moment.
With the exception of Rick Perry moment. When you look at who Donald Trump is bringing in versus Barack Obama, you don't have a bunch of theoreticians who wrote papers in college. You have people with significant skills. But let me continue with Dr. Carson.
Go ahead.
Dr. Carson has also run organizations. He has governing, as in management type structure experience.
I'm only saying what his own people said, David, but let me finish this point. If Mitt Romney was not to get Secretary of State, I actually think he would be a great HUD guy. I'm going to tell you why. First of all, his father did a pretty nice job doing the position for President Nixon, and he's got experience. So I'm not suggesting put a bureaucrat in there. I'm not saying go establishment on this. I'm saying put someone who is best suited. And I'm simply saying that I don't believe Dr. Carson.
You need someone who understands the needs of housing and urban development.
That's a part of it.
David, allow me to take the contrarian approach. I would like to see a little bit. I would love to see Donald Trump put some cabinet secretaries in place who would abolish their own departments. I think that would explain
Dr. Ben Carson.
I love Ben Carson playing hard to get, too. We know he wants it. Ben Carson's like, I don't know. I'm going to give it.
By the way, I would have put Carson in
some sort of role.
For some sort of role.
He's playing hard to get.
Education.
Education would be good.
Because he would abolish and bring down the Department of Education.
Well, now that Michelle Rhee has said that her name is taken out of consideration, that's a very important position considering what the president-elect has said about Common Core alone. So we'll see many aspects of this administration still taking shape. President-elect